time to stop sounding like a Spanish textbook and start speaking Spanish like a native. Here at Spanish Academy TV, we prioritize natural speaking rather than overly formal textbook language. Oftentimes, native speakers don't sound exactly like your stereotypical textbook. In fact, native Spanish speakers love breaking grammar rules and shortening phrases. Today, we're going to myth-bust common Spanish rules or lessons that are preventing you from sounding fluent. Get ready to have your mind blown by these 10 lies your Spanish teacher told you. You'll be shocked by the number 1 lie. But first, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. We post videos weekly with the best Spanish tips and tricks that'll have you speaking like a native in no time. Again, like, subscribe, bell button, easy. Now, let's jump into our Spanish language myth-busting lesson. Only use formal language. Spanish teachers tend to give you academic language and vocabulary, especially those dreaded essays. Spoken Spanish, however, includes lots of idioms and expressions. Although sounding like a native isn't always a piece of cake, memorizing just a few of the most commonly used expressions can make a huge difference. Here are just a few phrases that you can use to impress your native speaker friends. To speak freely. No tener pelos en la lengua, a piece of cake. Es pan comido, to be far away. Estar en el quinto pino. You can check out even more common Spanish idioms by clicking here. 9. Always use QUIERO to ask for things. If you've ever had an advanced Spanish class, you've probably been taught to use QUIERO when asking for things. However, if you find yourself at a restaurant in Mexico or in Spain, using QUIERO will give you away as a foreigner. To sound more natural and polite, try saying te pido. I ask you. Me gustaría. I would like. Or me podrías dar, traer. Could you bring me instead? 8. Don't use filler words. Did you know that filler words can actually help you sound like a native speaker? You use filler words in English all the time without even realizing it. Switch out your English, well, I mean, and let's see, for some Spanish filler words instead. Use bueno as a way to say well, or to just fill in time between ideas. A ver is another useful Spanish filler word. It's sort of like saying let's see, and is commonly used at the beginning of sentences. Es que is another super common filler word for Spanish users. You can use it in nearly every situation. 7. Never merge your words. When you're first learning Spanish, it's super important to pronounce every word clearly. However, native speakers don't talk like this. Their words naturally blend together and merge. This takes time and practice to mimic. Try listening to Spanish TV shows and podcasts, and then mimic what you hear. 6. Always trust cognates. One of the greatest Spanish hacks is also one of the most common mistakes. Cognates are words that sound similar and have the same meaning in both Spanish and English. Since these languages share many Latin roots, they have lots of similar words. This does come in handy when learning the languages. However, these cognates can sometimes get you into trouble. False cognates, aka words that sound similar but have very different meanings, often trip up Spanish learners. Even if your Spanish is otherwise perfect, misusing a false cognate can quickly give you away that you're not a native speaker. Here are some false cognates to look out for. Actual, current, not actual. Realizar, to do, carry out, not to realize. Fábrica, factory, not fabric. For even more cognate practice, click here. These tips and tricks might sound odd at first, but they will vastly improve your fluency. The best way to get better at speaking naturally is by practicing with a native speaker. That's why Homeschool Spanish Academy only works with certified teachers from Guatemala. They are already equipped with the best and most relevant slang that will have you sounding native in no time. You can sign up for a free trial class at any time by going to www.spanish.academy/free-class or click here. You can also contact us for a quote on group classes. We're halfway through the biggest lies your Spanish teacher ever told you. 5. Always use pronouns. Your English teacher probably taught you to never leave off he, she, or they pronouns when creating sentences. However, Spanish is not the same. ¿Tú me hablaste? Means the same thing as ¿me hablaste? You can remove the pronoun without changing the meaning of the sentence. In Spanish, the conjugated verbs show who is doing the action, so no need to repeat them. 4. Everything you need to know is in your textbook. If you've attended school, then you're probably used to relying on textbooks for all of your learning needs. Unfortunately, real spoken Spanish doesn't always find its way into these official grammar guides. That's why it's important to supplement your language learning with online tools and resources. There are hundreds of Spanish videos, books, and songs at your fingertips. You can also download Spanish apps, discover online video games, and put on Spanish podcasts so that you can incorporate Spanish into your everyday life. 3. Don't use slang. Slang often gets a bad rap, especially by teachers. Well, I'm officially giving you permission to learn all the Spanish slang you can handle. Slang for language learners is like a secret tool. It lets you level up your Spanish with just a few new phrases. You will instantly impress the locals and gain their friendship once you make an effort to understand their secret language. Slang is different from common idioms or expressions since it can be country and even city specific. If you already have some native speaking friends, they will be your best resource. Or if you have a certain destination in mind, research what Spanish slang is popular in that area. It's important to do this location-specific research, as slang words in one country could be insults in another. 2. Don't use contractions. The English language is full of contractions like it's and doesn't. While Spanish doesn't have many official contractions, that doesn't stop native speakers from creating their own. Rather than combining two words together like in English, unofficial Spanish contractions involve shortening words. Sort of like saying goin' in English. These contractions might be difficult to catch when listening to native speech because they make the Spanish language sound completely different. However, once you know what you're listening for, you'll be better equipped to detect those sneaky contractions. Here are some of the most common unofficial contractions you might come across. Para, pa, voy pa la tienda, todos, to, estudio español todos los días, está, ta, ya está listo. And now, it's time for the #1 lie your Spanish teacher told you. Spanish teachers often assume that all Spanish is the same, but that's simply not the case. Regional Spanish differs considerably. Spanish words in one region might mean something completely different in another. As a Spanish learner, it's important to be vigilant with those special words. Popcorn, for example, has more than 10 different names in Spanish. In Argentina, it's tutuca, but if you're in Spain, then it's tostón. Did you know that amigo isn't the only way to say friend in Spanish? In fact, there are over 50 ways to say this single word. Acere, cabro, gauche, panaful, and wun might sound completely different, yet they all mean the exact same thing. Nearly every Spanish-speaking country created its own version of amigo. There are special Spanish languages everywhere you go. Buen trabajo! You now know 10 creative ways to ditch that Spanish textbook and speak more like a native. Keep in mind that you don't actually have to throw your textbook out the window, but rather add additional resources to your Spanish arsenal for optimal learning. The road to fluency may appear long, but with consistent practice, you'll get there in no time. There are no hard and fast rules when it comes to language. Every year, there are new words and phrases to learn. Spanish is fluid since it is constantly changing and adapting. Were you surprised by any of the items on our list? What other myths did your Spanish teacher tell you? Let us know by commenting down below. And definitely don't let the learning stop here. Continue your pursuit towards fluency with 50 Spanish transition words that will make you sound more like a native speaker. I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and click that notification bell to never miss the best Spanish content on the web.